Hello and welcome to Seismic Cinema. Wait, hold on, that's the door.
A great start to the podcast. That could be in the...
No, it wasn't a delayed start. Somebody just turned up at my door with like hundreds and hundreds of letters. I picked a few of them out just to show you. Right, so this one's from Colin. Okay. He's definitely on the naughty list. He's not seen any movies. What about this next one? Paul. Naughty list. He doesn't even watch movies in the right order. Right. I picked one more from the sample. We got a James here. Finally, somebody who's in the good list. You know why?
Why is that?
This guy actually goes and writes essays about the movies. Top effort.
Hey.
Hello, welcome to our review of The Santa Claus. That was our wee intro there, which I hope you all enjoyed. So you can find Seismic Cinema on various social media platforms, including X, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, Blue Sky, which we don't have a Scooby how to use, and Facebook, both the page and our community group. So please consider following and joining the group as well. You can watch and listen on YouTube and Spotify, and you can also listen on Apple Podcasts, Audible, Amazon Music, Spotify for creators, and probably some more places as well. And we are proud to be part of the Podpack Collective. There's all the members there, group of podcasters who support each other, share each other's work, and guest on occasion as well.
Welcome to Shatsunami, a variety podcast that discusses topics from gaming and films to anime and general interests.
Previously on Chatsunami, we've analysed what makes a good horror game, conducted a retrospective on Pierce Brosnan's run as James Bond, and listened to us take deep dives into both the Sonic and Halo franchises.
Also, if you're an anime fan, then don't forget to check us out on our sub-series, Chatsunani, where we dive into the world of anime. So far, we've reviewed things like Death Note, Princess Mononoke, and the hit Beyblade series.
If that sounds like your cup of tea, then you can check us out on Spotify, iTunes, and all good podcast apps.
As always, stay safe,
Stay awesome, and most importantly,
Stay hydrated.
All right. So in terms of Seismic Cinema, our recent episodes, our most recent one was Jingle All the Way, which is a Christmas favourite of both myself and James. And before that, we did Violent Night, which was our first time viewing for both of us. And then before that, we were still in Halloween mode or horror mode when we were doing The Conjuring. So, James, just before we get into the Santa Claus, I'm just wondering if you have been watching anything this week in amongst writing all your essays.
Well, I'll say something just now, mate. The introduction of the episode there, you actually had me. I genuinely thought that was your door.
Well, it's
Just
funny
because
because I was actually meant to be getting a delivery from Morrison's, but arrived before we came on. So
you got me, mate. I was about to say something about that to go in the blooper reel, but
no. Hopefully you kept it PG so we can keep it in.
No, I kept it PG. What I've been watching, well, you know what I've been watching, mate. Making some good progress on it, man. So I'm on season 6 now. I lost season 6, episode 6.
That's some pretty good progress.
I went through it, mate. I've powered through it. I've beasted it.
Nice.
So just because the nature of the show, mate, I've been just watching that, man, and obviously the films that we review. So been quite quiet on the TV show and the film front, mate, to be honest.
Cool.
What about you?
Well, I mentioned last week, I think it was, I'd finished watching The Man on the Inside with Ted Danson. So off the back of that, I started watching The Good Place, and I'm kind of nearing the end of season 2 now. I watched the first season a couple of years ago, but quite enjoying it. I'm going to see that one through. I watched another wee Christmas film over the weekend. I watched The Polar Express, which I didn't actually think was that great. Some of it was good, but some of it was a wee bit nah.
Was that the first time you seen it?
Nah, I'd watched it a couple of years ago, and then probably when I was younger, but nah, I didn't think it was that great, to be honest. I also watched because we put it in our poll. I watched Nativity a couple of weekends ago, the one with Martin Freeman. I have been watching. I've watched, I think, the first season of Gavin and Stacey in the lead up to the final episode on Christmas Day, and I watched another movie over the weekend, Carry On. It was Taron Egerton and Jason Bateman.
I've seen it advertised on Netflix, mate.
In an airport. I thought it was quite decent. A lot of action. I reckon you and Paul would probably quite enjoy it. So yeah, watching A Good Place and watched a couple of movies over the weekend and the odd Christmas film. And I forgot to mention last week I've watched the first 3 episodes of Skeleton Crew, the new Star Wars show that's out on Disney Plus, which is getting pretty good reviews compared to what Star Wars normally gets these days. So yeah, so that's what I've been watching.
You give Star Wars good reviews, good or bad, anyway, don't you?
No, what I do. thank you for the debate there. I like to point out the things that I like, while also being able to construct constructive criticism for the bits I don't like. That's my take.
Fair does. By the way, see, I know you want to move on, mate, but see the film Carry On. I seen it on Netflix. It kind of screamed a wee bit like the film Phone Booth to me, as well as Die Hard 2, because it's set in an airport, you know what I mean? But I don't know. I'll get a watch, but
it's not bad. Not the most amazing film I've ever watched, but I quite enjoyed it. Quite tense. So moving on to the movie now. So obviously the Santa Claus, which came out in 1994. We'll do what we usually do. I was 3, James. You were
9.
Cool. And the movie is 1 hour and 37 minutes long. It's a family and comedy film. The synopsis is: when a man inadvertently makes Santa fall off his roof on Christmas Eve, he finds himself magically recruited to take his place. And the tagline was, "What if your dad was Santa Claus?" which is quite a good hook. The director was John Pasquin, and the writers were Leo Benvenuti and Steve Rudrick. It's the weekly battle to read my own handwriting. The film, I'm not happy with this one either after Jingle All the Way. 6.6 on IMDb, 57 with the critics, and 73% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is a bit better. The budget was 22 million and it made 191 million at the box office, which was pretty successful. It won 2 awards and had 9 nominations. The main cast was Tim Allen as Scott Calvin, Judge Reynolds as Neil, Wendy Crewson as Laura, Eric Lloyd as Charlie, and David Krumholtz as Bernard, who James pinched the screen name for.
I didn't pinch anything, man. I was on first.
Something we've been doing recently is just looking at the awards that were won. So the ones that were won, it was the BMI Film Music Award, which was the winner, and it was Michael Convertino. And the other one they won was the People's Choice Award, and that was for favorite comedy motion picture. So it won a couple of awards. And James, I'm just wondering, I'm quite interested to hear actually what your history of this film is.
I'll probably a wee bit late to the party on this one, mate, to be honest with you, because I don't ever remember watching it as vividly as, you know, Jingle All the Way and Home Alone and all that sort of thing with my family, do you know what I mean? So I got to it a wee bit late. Can't put a time frame on it, mate, but I mean, I'm guessing you watched this when you were, you know, that kind of age. It's not generally one of my films that I would, not till recently, I would say anyway, do you know what I mean, that I would watch every year at Christmas time, because I would watch other ones anyway, but I don't have the same kind of connection with this film as much as I have with Jingle All the Way and Home Alone, all the lines. I mean, which is strange because it was
Mhm.
like 1994 it came out. I would have been a good age for it, but I just don't remember it being on the TV as much. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I don't know, mate. I didn't have it in DVD or VHS.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't know, mate. I don't know. But I really like to party on it, and obviously I'll tell you about my thoughts on it shortly.
Mhm. Yeah, I can't really remember when I first watched it, but it's one I always remember being on as a kid, and it's my, if I was to pick one Christmas film to watch every year, it'd be this one. It's always just been like my Christmas Eve movie, and even when I watched it this time round, I still got those kind of same feelings as when I was a kid. So it's one that means a lot to me actually, and one that I'll always kind of go back to. I do have it on. I've got like the trilogy on DVD. I don't really remember the other films as much, but they did actually bring out a sequel Disney Plus show. It's got 2 seasons, and it's like Tim Allen and the son, or not that son, but a son he has with a future wife in a sequel, and it's actually quite decent. It's just kind of cheese, but it's quite enjoyable anyway. So yeah, quite fond of the franchise. I was wondering if you had any trivia that you came across or are aware of.
Yeah, I got some trivia, mate. I did my
Okay.
homework this week.
I'll let you go first then. So I'm not
See, I've never
stealing.
seen Santa Claus 2 or 3, mate, to be honest with you either. Do you know what I mean? It's just the
It's one of
first
those
one I've
ones
seen.
like you could watch them. They're probably reasonably enjoyable, but to me the first one's always the best in most cases.
Right, so trivia, mate. Right, okay, I've got a few things here. So,
Intrigued.
this was actually Tim Allen's first lead, kind of leading part for a film.
Mhm.
Seen that one.
That's surprising, isn't it?
It is. Bear in mind, he's in a TV show and all that, like, as well. Do you know what I mean? He was known for Home Improvements. Home Improvement, whatever it was called.
Buzz Lightyear.
Buzz Lightyear, aye. The Toy Story came out after this, but no, it came out in 96, didn't it?
Aye, yeah, it did.
Aye,
Yeah.
it came out after this. I read as well, mate, that he wasn't the first person to to be thought of for the part, mate. It was Bill Murray. The part was written for Bill Murray, and Bill Murray declined it as well because of the script didn't really kind of match his humour, which I'm quite glad about, mate. To be honest with you, I don't imagine Bill Murray being in this film.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Did you see some of the other names that were like?
I seen who was it I seen, mate? I didn't write it down, mate, because I'd already got this one down. What was the other names again?
So the ones that I had screenshotted were Chevy Chase
I seen that
was
one.
one. This was an interesting one. Harrison Ford. Imagine that. And another few listed. Tom Hanks, ironically. So Woody was also in the picture. Robin Williams. And John Ritter. So that's the guy. Is that the guy that was on 8 Simple Rules that died? I think it was. Kurt Russell, your boy.
I thought he was in kind of the choice to play Neil. Was that right? No, was it? I thought, or was it?
No, it's saying all for Santa Claus.
Right.
Tom Selleck, John Travolta, Rowan Atkinson, Mike Myers, Michael Keaton. So it's a big list of options there.
Aye. Well, obviously you got Kurt Russell in the Christmas Chronicles. Do you know what I mean? I think he did the right thing waiting till, because the Christmas Chronicles is a good film, mate, isn't it? So,
Not actually seen that one.
Have you not? No, that's a good film, mate. That's a good one. Aye. Another one I've seen as well, mate. See when Scott and Charlie got in the North Pole for the first time and enter the code in 1239. Apparently it's a kind of nod to Rudolph, because Rudolph was created on the 12th of December 1939.
I saw that one, yeah.
That was quite good.
There was some interesting casting almost for our boy Bernard as well.
I've seen that, mate, as well. Was it Joseph Gordon-Levitt was one of them?
Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Elijah Wood, Macaulay Culkin. Thomas Ian Nicholas, is that not the guy from American Pie?
It's Finch in it, aye.
No, it's Kevin, is it not?
Was it Kevin? I thought it was Finch.
Hmm.
Could be right. I'm wrong. Yeah.
Someone will correct us anyway. So yeah, it's obviously shows. There's a lot of big names in there.
Especially the ones with double-barreled names.
There's quite a few in there anyway. Was there any other trivia you found?
I found this one. I found it quite good. See the noises for the comet, for the reindeer comet. It was sound effects from the video game Doom, which I played back in the day.
Right. Do you recognise some of them?
Well, I didn't recognise them, mate. No, but as I read that, I'm going, "Oh, that's quite interesting."
Yeah.
I didn't go hear the reindeer and go, "What? That's for Doom that sound." No.
That's poor them.
Also, mate, as well, the Chris Columbus is meant to have directed it. Did you get this one?
I saw that. Yeah, I think we're looking in the same places.
But even he was meant to have directed this film, but he chose Mrs. Doubtfire instead, which would go along with Robin Williams. He was obviously said that he was meant to be playing Santa Claus, but
not a bad backup then.
100%.
The last one I wanted to mention was, and it really surprised me actually. I had no idea that Tim Allen was like in jail for a couple of years for drug charges.
I didn't know what it was for him, mate. No, but I seen he was a criminal record.
Because I've seen this picture online. It's just a picture of his like mugshot in the jail. And just this is the first movie I knew him in, so like I obviously had this like he was Santa Claus to me. Do you know what I mean? So it's easy to find out like a couple of days ago that he'd been in jail, because apparently he was meant to be in jail for about 20 years, but he like ratted on the people he was working with.
What was it done again?
He smuggled like cocaine on like, a flight or something.
Did he?
Aye. Disney have a no hiring of ex-cons policy. But they broke that for Tim Allen.
To be fair, I think most places have a policy of don't hire ex-cons. Do you know what I mean?
Well, not all. So quite a lot of trivia there, a lot of kind of casting choices. So it's only right that we get into the review now, because there's a lot to talk about. So the film starts with Scott Calvin, who's conveniently got the same initials as old Santa Claus, but I'm sure that's just a coincidence. So he's introduced at it's like the work Christmas party, and it's quite rowdy. They're all having some drinks. He's getting bigged up, and this is quite important for later. He's getting bigged up as like one of the best salespeople in the region. And
salespeople.
What did I say?
No, you said salespeople, mate. It's
quite interesting though. There's quite a lot of similarities initially between Scott Calvin and Jingle All the Way, because I forgot his name. Arnold.
Howard Langston.
Aye, in the sense of they're both like big salespeople, but they're also neglecting their families and their kids a wee bit as well.
Mate, that's exactly what I was thinking as well. Watching it was very similar. The Christmas party at the start, they're very kind of workaholic, aren't they? And they want to kind of, get the customers, get the sales in before the holidays. Do you know what I mean? 100%.
And I don't know if it was just a trope back then, but it's a shame that they keep painting the dads as these workaholics that neglect their family in these films. What's actually been quite interesting doing a lot of the recent reviews is going back and watching them and critiquing them like as both an adult, a husband and a dad as well. You actually do see different sides of it as you're going through it. So naturally, as per Jingle All the Way, Scott ends up late for going to see his son on Christmas Eve, and it's quite obvious from the get-go that at this stage Scott and Charlie's relationship's a bit strained, and he's not too keen to actually stay overnight with him.
That's right. Aye. See, before that though, at the Christmas party, he talks about we're not just a toy company, we're a family company, which is kind of ironic, the fact that his family's in disarray. Do you know what I mean? And his relationship with his son isn't the best and things. Do you know what I mean? So, it was. But you're right, mate. He gets home. He's late. His son Charlie doesn't really want to stay the night because he's already kind of planning with his mum to pick him up early in the morning and get away from him. Do you know what I mean? And just kind of spend Christmas with his mum and Neil.
And Scott obviously hears that. Like, he's standing like not too far away, and he hears Charlie saying that to his mum, and it must have been a real kick in the teeth for him to hear his son saying that.
Aye, because he's obviously this is his son at the end of the day, isn't it? And he still wants to kind of bring the Christmas magic, the Christmas kind of spirit and things, even though his spirit at times is diminished anyway. But I think he still wants to spend time, with his boy. And did you recognise Neil, by the way? Like the actor Neil, where he was from?
I obviously just have always known him as this character. So, is it something I've seen?
Well, I'm hoping you've seen it, but being you, mate, you probably have to seen it.
Probably not.
He's Billy from Beverly Hills Cop.
Never actually watched it. Although it was one that you wanted to do at one point, wasn't it? We just never got around to doing it.
It wasn't on the platforms, mate, so we kiboshed it. But
I would have seen it if we'd stuck to the schedule.
Aye. But Neil, like he was talking about the folk at school when they were saying Santa Claus wasn't real and all that sort of thing, and his first instinct was that did Neil tell him that they're talking rubbish, that he is real, but he didn't reassure, didn't tell Charlie that. He was reassuring that Santa Claus was. So his kind of spirit of Christmas is getting taken away from him as well, because he's not been being reassured that Santa Claus is real, and his dad's trying his best to kind of reestablish that.
Yeah, and you obviously find out later why Neil and the mum Laura, why they have a certain, because as the film progresses, they're like, you'd think they would be trying to keep the magic alive with Charlie, but they're just trying to be really like rational with him and explaining like how could Santa Claus get around all these houses and that kind of time frame. So you obviously find out later why that's the case, obviously. So he ends up staying. Scott tries to make dinner, but burns the turkey, and the smoke alarm's going off, and then he decides to take him to it's Denny's, isn't it?
Aye, Denny's.
And they go into there, and Scott has a bit of a kinship with some of the other dads who have also burnt the turkey. And there's a guy, he's like speaking to him, he's like, "You burnt the turkey," and the guy just holds his hand up, and he's got like a bandage, and he's burned his hand. So I thought that bit was quite funny. And then they eventually have their dinner there, and they go back to the house, and then he's reading them the bedtime story, which was the night before Christmas.
See, like, to explain this, maybe it did. Is it just because, like, I just got confused the fact that he was eating turkey on Christmas Eve? Is it just because he wasn't spending time with his dad on Christmas Day that he wasn't having the turkey on that day, and he just had it? Well,
probably, yeah.
Have it on Christmas Eve.
Different. Probably just because he was meant to be going home on Christmas Day, so it's obviously just an arrangement that they had. Just a wee bit on the book, because I was also watching this when we were reviewing it, but it's also coming up to Amber's first Christmas. I actually bought like a kid's version of the Night Before Christmas. It's like a kind of pull out, kind of pop up book. So I'd like to start reading that to her every Christmas, as a wee bit of a tribute to my favorite Christmas film as well. So so I've got that in the living room. So he's reading the book, but he's not putting his full effort in, is he? He's just kind of rattling through it. He senses Charlie's on his way to sleep, and just kind of rushes the end, doesn't he?
Aye. See as well. See before we get to that, but see obviously in Denny's there is a kind of nod of approval to other dads there who burned the turkey or just ruined Christmas dinner and things. I bet you see if I at that point in time, Scott Calvin would have met me and my dad in there 100%. Because if my dad was in charge of the Christmas dinner, then it would be a burnt house, a burnt turkey, and eating takeaway 100%. But no, you're right, mate. He was obviously reading the book to Charlie, and he wasn't giving it all. He just kind of wanted, he just kind of. I think he was maybe just kind of down for the whole night as well, and what he heard before about Charlie just kind of wanting to make the great escape in the morning back to his mum, you know, and he wasn't putting his full effort into it. He was kind of racing through the book, getting to the end and that, and to be fair though as well, it's Charlie, because he was asking questions. Do you know what I mean? He was asking kind of questions like kids do. Do you know what I mean? Like about Christmas and that as well. And looking about Christmas, just about words in general, what do they mean, and all things like that. So it was kind of at the same time, even though he wanted to rattle through the book and get there as quick as possible, and he was obviously coming back and forth to the room because he kept on shouting him back in that.
Yeah.
He was just going, oh, what is it now type thing. They were starting to kind of build a wee relationship as well, just about the kind of, as silly as it sounds and as maybe as trivial as it sounds, mate, but just telling them what words mean and things like that is a big thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's the whole, he's asking what or Rose, what is it? Something.
A rose.
The
rose and classer.
Aye. So obviously that comes up later on as well.
Aye.
And then he's finally getting Charlie to sleep when he hears the fateful thump on the roof, and he runs out, as you do, in the snow in your box. He runs out into the snow in his boxers, and he spots old Saint Nick on the roof, and then this is one of the bits in the movie I'm just it's a bit silly. Like, see, for all the ways for Santa to die, he just like gets startled and then falls off the roof. Also, I don't quite get as though he falls into the snow, and it's like, it doesn't seem like something that would actually kill somebody. Never mind Santa Claus, you know.
Aye. See, on that as well, he puts his red jacket on, by the way, his red jacket, because that's the foreshadow of Santa Claus. And he runs out in his boxer shorts and his big boots. To be fair, I mean, if you hear somebody on your roof, what do you do, man? You would just come out, wouldn't you? You would just come out. But I don't understand how Santa Claus died. I mean, like, you fall off the roof and in the snow. I mean, I don't really understand how you would die.
Because plot.
Sorry?
Because plot. Plot reasons.
Plot. Yeah, I know. I get that, but I mean, but I don't know. It's just a bit bizarre.
That's what it is. I've never really questioned it until like this week, to be honest. It's just what happened. And you actually think at one point that he's not dead, because he kind of like waves at Scott, but that's obviously him kind of passing on the torch. So Santa's lying on the ground. Charlie runs out exclaiming that his dad's killed Santa. Then he starts kind of looking through his suit and he finds the card, doesn't he? Which is one of the bits I've been most eager to discuss here. Is like, as a kid, I always like, I knew it was like the Santa Claus, and it's because Santa Claus was in it. But it's actually quite a clever title to the film, and that it's not actually about the character; it's about the actual legal clause that turns him into Santa Claus.
Aye, that's right, mate. Because obviously, watching it a second time, and you see him having a card, and the camera kind of pans round to the card, and you can see the red kind of writing round it, but you can't see what it says, obviously, but you don't notice it the first time watching it because you're not looking for it, but it is there. But as a clever, I was just waiting on you saying you're going to watch this in your classroom, because the business clauses and all sorts like that. But
well, there's, I suppose, there's the sales people stuff at the start.
No, it is quite clever, mate, how they brought that together with the Santa Claus and clause of contract. So it was good that way. Yeah,
and obviously says about, like, basically, if Santa Claus was to die, the person who caused it would obviously put on the suit. But Scott's obviously not wanting to. He's not believing Like he just thinks this is just a random guy at this stage, doesn't he? And that's until they see the ladder, which is from the Rose such a clatter company or something like that.
Aye, that's right.
Which was what Charlie thought was said in the book. So they go up to the roof. Or is it their roof, or is it the roof on the opposite side of the street? No, it's their roof, isn't it?
It's their roof,
Maybe it's a bit later in the film I'm thinking of. And then they go up and all the reindeer are there. And although like there's a sleigh, there's a reindeer, Scott's obviously still not quite believing what's going on. But Charlie's like getting quite excited about going on an adventure, isn't he?
Aye, as you would be, being a kid, do you know what I mean? Seeing the reindeer and you see the sleigh as well, do you know what I mean? But it was, I was going to say something, mate, as well about Santa Claus there. Just it escaped me. Can't remember. But they got to the roof, mate, and it's he's still not sure what to believe it. Like he's like, what's going on here?
And I like what they did with the reindeer here. I think they were quite realistic looking, and they also had a bit of personality. Like they were quite grumpy, and I think was it Comet that was Charlie's favorite.
Aye, Comet was the one that went to mostly. He was the one at the start, like at the very front, isn't he?
And then
he was kind of making grunty noises and stuff like that, and kind of
Scott
quite rabbit.
Scott kind of refers to Rudolph as well in that scene, and the sleigh's not kind of going, and then Scott finally agrees to put on the suit. Then all of a sudden they're flying off into the night, and it's a wee bit of a contrast, isn't it, from the Violent Night review in terms of the visits to the houses?
Aye, it isn't half. Oh, I realised what I was going to say. See, you said this that the person was the person that caused the death of Santa Claus was to take the suit on, but was it not just the person who read out the card? And if the person read the card out, then by law, by the contract, the clause of the card,
it probably wasn't like who killed him, because I don't think they would really expect that to happen.
It is a big but it's a contrast, because in the Violent Night it was, Violent Night was all about kind of consumerism and kind of money, video games, the spirit of Christmas wasn't there. But in here, he was going to the houses, and like you could see that the wee girls, for example, were waiting up to try and catch a glimpse of Santa Claus and leaving the cookies out and all the rest of it. So it was nice to see that aspect of it as well. But obviously, he was just taking on the role of Santa Claus. He was just kind of doing it because he just found himself in that position, and he wasn't exactly the most cheerful of Santa Clauses at that point.
I suppose there was some similarities with Violent Night there, that he was quite grumpy, but there's some funny bits as well, like when he said he was lactose intolerant, and it's quite good. I like that they actually called back to the same girl at the end of the film, which kind of tied it together nicely. What's actually quite interesting though, she's in the TV show when she's like an adult. She comes back into it as well. And you've got the kind of humorous scenes where he's got like the big canoe and it like falls into the Christmas tree and things like that. So yeah, I quite like those scenes. And do you know what actually I thought, we were talking about Jingle All the Way, and like some of the scenes at the end were a bit dated. I actually thought the scenes with the sleigh and the scenes with them going down the chimney and different things, I actually thought they still looked quite good considering the age of the film.
I mean,
I think it still worked. Like I think it fitted the film nicely.
I didn't see a problem with it, mate. Do you know what I mean? To be honest with you, I mean, I don't know now. I mean, the CGI would be a lot better and whatever, but I don't have a problem with it, mate. It was what it was. But especially when we went down the kind of wee chimney, didn't he? The wee pipe one, and you had to. And when you go down that pipe, it creates a fireplace, doesn't it? So,
which is an interesting thing. Like that's something that kids would regularly ask. Like if they don't have a fireplace, it's like, how does Santa get down? But in this film, it just appears, which is quite amusing. Anyway,
well, that's what he says, isn't it? There's no chimney here, so how can I get down?
I know. And you feel for Charlie when he's trying to explain like what happened and no one's believing him because what he's saying just sounds ridiculous.
Well, it does, doesn't it? But it's
At that stage. And it so they keep kind of doing the rounds, and they eventually, I think Scott's like, time to go back home, and he's expecting to go back to his house, and then they just turn up at the North Pole. And I always like that scene. See, when you just hear the kind of like haunting music, and then the wee kind of light comes up, and then the elves appear and then kind of take them down. I always thought that music was really kind of like kind of atmospheric and quite emotional.
I think it was emotional. I don't
It's
know.
emotional. I think it's emotional for me, maybe just because of like my memories of the film.
Aye. No, it was. I thought it was quite nice. I mean, like even getting to the North Pole and
Aye.
then just seeing all the elves and all that sort of stuff, and you obviously meet Bernard.
Bernard. So he's actually quite a well-known actor. He's actually appeared in quite a few. He was in Billions that I was watching. And
Was he?
I think he's actually had a pretty good career, David Krumholtz. He's like quite a big American actor in TV shows.
I don't know if I've probably seen him somewhere. Do you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, he was definitely in Billions that I watched quite recently. He's very like. Well, I know why I like him, but why did you pick him as your screen name? I assume he's a character that you liked.
That's just like I thought he wasn't taking any nonsense. Do you know what I mean? He was kind of telling them what was what, and this is what you need to do, and you put the suit on, you're the big guy, and it was like if you don't want to date, you're going to disappoint loads of people, and all the kids will be gutted and all that. But even shouts at him as well, didn't he? Like he was taking no nonsense, and he was he was the person that he would really kind of lean on, because at the end of the day, he had no clue what to do, and then he was taking his lead and his word for it all. But I liked his appearance as well, mate. Do you know what I mean? He's like he had kind of braided hair, didn't he, as well, and his elf hat and all stuff like that.
I think he definitely comes back in the TV show as well. So there's a lot of the current actors.
Right.
And
why did you like him?
Just same as you, like he was like no messing with him, but he had a softer side too, because he obviously forms a really strong bond with Charlie quite away, and over time he builds a strong relationship with Scott as well. And he's not the only character Scott kind of bonds with. There's forget her name, one of the elves, the one that gives him like the hot drink.
Oh, I don't remember the name.
I thought it was about R, but I could be wrong. We'll call her Ruby for the purposes of the discussion, but it might come back to us. But she's quite nice to him, and he kind of softens a wee bit, I think, after his conversation with her.
Aye. Is it all chocolate she gives him that?
Aye, something like that, yeah, with lots of sprinkles or whatever. And then Bernard says basically Scott has until Thanksgiving, and then he needs to come and start like the preparations for Christmas.
That's right. He's like, Thanksgiving, no chance of coming back here.
Aye.
Like, you'll get the list before that and all that. He's like, how do I know? How will I know if they're not your nice? He's all, you'll know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you get the doorbell, yeah. And it's so Scott, obviously it just kind of cuts to the next day, Christmas Day, essentially, when Scott wakes up in his own bed. And like we've all had nights where you've had really vivid dreams that are quite outlandish, and you wake up and you maybe think about them for the first half hour of the day, or you maybe tell your friend about them or whatever. I don't know if you do, because sometimes people just don't remember their dreams at all.
I remember dreams, and sometimes I don't remember dreams, and if I remember them, I'll definitely tell them. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Aye.
So he's not really. He's probably not thinking about it too much, but then Charlie just starts saying things like, "Oh, we went to the North Pole last night," when his mum picks him up, and at that stage, she thinks he's just being a wee guy. Do you know what I mean? He's just talking nonsense because it's Christmas and things like that. but they're still quite short with him, aren't they, in terms of like his beliefs?
Aye, so there's two sides to this. Because Scott wakes up and going, "Oh, thank God, it was just a dream. It was nothing." And then you've got Charlie, who was always dead excited and things like that, and then obviously telling his mum about it all. Aye, they don't know what I know, don't they? Know they are kind of short with him. They don't. It's just kind of they're quite passive.
Yeah,
I'd say.
And I think, see, if this had just been a 1 day thing or something they went on about for a couple of hours, they could have probably written it off just as a childhood fantasy. But it obviously starts to become more of a problem. Maybe not initially. Like, see, when the mum walks in the room and she sees him, like he's got like the chairs laid out and he's pretending to like be Santa and lead the sleigh. Even at that stage, I see the age he's at, you could probably just be like, he's just having fun, like he's just being creative and using his imagination. But she seems to take it more as like more seriously, and kind of wants to stamp it out of him essentially.
Aye,
But that could be Neil's influence as well.
I think it is Neil's influence, mate, because obviously he tells him that he knows so much words that he doesn't really exist, and Christmas is, is the what you think it is, the thing. So I think Neil's got a negative influence on him and on her as well, I think. That I think about it.
It's funny, like I always viewed Neil as like the pure villain of the piece growing up, but see now that I'm watching it at the stage of life I'm at, see if you view this more from like the mental health perspective or like whether Scott's fit to be a father, it's actually quite interesting to watch it because Neil's actually got a lot of, we can talk more about it as we go on, but Neil's also got a lot of valid concerns over like Scott's behaviour or the changes in Scott, and you can kind of understand it from his perspective as like his stepdad, that he's obviously trying to look out for Scott. Maybe he's not doing it in the right way in terms of like telling him Santa's not real, but like I think he does have genuine like reasons for concern.
Aye, obviously he's a psychiatrist as well, isn't he? So he's
just while we're on that, there's a proper not intentional because it came out years later, but there's like a Hangover, the movie linked to this. Did you catch it?
I'm not sure, no.
When
is it Stu? He's a psychiatrist, isn't he?
No, because he's a dentist. But remember in The Hangover and in this, they keep referring to Neil or Stu as a doctor, and then what's his face in The Hangover, Phil, and then Scott in this, they're like, no, he's a psychiatrist, or no, he's a dentist. So it was quite a funny, like, not a nod to that film because there's no connection, but just it made me laugh anyway because it made me think. It made me think of The Hangover anyway. Obviously, as I said earlier, you find out later why he kind of behaves like this, but at this stage of the film, he's a wee bit like Ted in a sense, and Jingle All the Way. Like you just quite dislike him just because he's not. It doesn't seem the most kind of savoury of characters.
I know. Yeah, it's because he's not the main character. Do you know what I mean? You root for Scott.
And Charlie,
and Charlie, you root for them. Do you know what I mean? The same way you rooted for Jamie and you rooted for Howard and Jingle All the Way. There has to be some kind of antagonist. Do you know what I mean? And there has to be a bad guy in every film. It's just the way it works. Do you know what I mean? But growing up, he was the bad guy because he was the one saying all the things. But really, from an adult point of view, he does have genuine concerns about his behaviour. Do you know what I mean? But we don't. It's a child's film. We don't really see or know that. Do you know what I mean? When we're that age.
That's what I love about doing these reviews, though, because it is interesting when you're watching films at different like stages of your life and the different messages you take from it. So, so this is probably the funnest part of the film, Scott's transformation into Santa Claus.
That was funny.
So, what were some of the bits that you quite enjoyed of kind of his transition into Santa Claus?
It's funny. I always remember, I say I always remember. I do remember the trailer for the film, though. it'd always be this bit's the bit where he's on the scales or something. He's in the doctor's office and he's like, "You've just put on a wee bit of weight," and he goes, "Putting a wee bit of weight," and he's like, "I've put on 75 pounds in like 3 days or something like that." Do you know what I mean? I think the bit where he's running the treadmill when he's obviously trying to get fit on, he's trying to get his the doctor's trying to get a sight for how fit he is and how unhealthy he is, whatever. He's like, "Oh, you're fit as a fiddle." Do you know what I mean? Whatever.
Aye.
I don't understand how this has happened. And it's like, what have you been eating? Oh, just milk and cookies. And it's like,
It's funny because
that's the reason why.
The doctor thinks he's just like having a joke about the diet, isn't he?
Ah, yes, right. And I like the bit as well when he's talking to, I think it's the doctor anyway. He's like, "I shaved this morning and look at it now." So I mean, it's like a couple of hours. He's got a big beard.
Like three times throughout the film, you see him shaving, like it actually shows you.
Aye.
There's other bit of the doctor's office where he's checking his pulse or his heartbeat, and it's doing like the Jingle Bells like tune.
That's right. That's good.
That was funny. There's other bits as well. Obviously, he just kind of puts on weight generally. His hair starts to go grey. He grows the beard. I thought he looks so much like what you'd imagine Santa to look like the end result.
Oh, aye, definitely.
To me, that's Santa Claus. To me, do you know what I mean?
Aye, and a lot of people would think Santa Claus is like, would picture him like, for example, A Miracle on 34th Street, which is referenced in this film as well, actually.
Because it's another film about people not believing in Santa.
Aye. So people's perceptions of Santa Claus will change through generations, do you know what I mean? Well, that's just my opinion anyway, do you know what I mean?
There's another just wee bit of trivia here. I thought links well to this bit. Tim Allen underwent 4 to 5 hours of makeup and prosthetic applications. And he experienced heat rashes, scars, scratches, and infections. So he really didn't have the best experience in the filming, but he obviously liked the role because he came back for the sequels, and he also came back years later for the TV show. So he must have had a good time with the project. Or
you got a lot of money, mate, to do it. One of the two.
Oh, do you know who plays Mrs. Do you know who plays Mrs. Claus in the second the sequels?
Is it Juliet from Lost?
There's your Lost reference.
There you go. Aye. I remember that.
That was quite good.
She don't catch him in the school or something like that, like trying to do the society film. I'm pretty sure it is. I can't remember.
Not sure.
So
what else happens there? There's a bit where he's walking down the street, and in his head he's still the relatively young Tim Allen, and he's seen kids in the street, and he's like naughty, nice, and then he sees like an older woman, not older woman, but like a woman, and he's like very nice, and she just looks at him like, "In your dreams, slay boy."
But because Bernard told him that he would know who was naughty and nice. Do you know what I mean? So it's coming to him.
Mm-hmm.
That's just part of the magic. Do you know what I mean?
There's the scene in the park which is kind of disturbing, where there's just a big line of kids waiting to like tell him what they want for Christmas.
Well,
that looks bad. See, when you see Neil walking over, you're like, that look. That's one of the bits where you can like defend Neil. He's like, right, this is getting out of hand.
Aye, we said it last week, mate, as well, with Jingle All the Way in the ball pit. Do you know what I mean? There's certain things you just don't do. Do you know what I mean? Or you wouldn't be put in that situation. You wouldn't be put in that situation.
Yeah.
But if you just seen somebody in a park, the kids and all that sort of stuff, then that's red flags, isn't it?
But he starts off he's like turning his back on her and stuff, and she like taps him and just says like saying what she wants. But as that scene progresses, you can see him starting to get into the role. He's starting to quite enjoy being Santa Claus, I would say.
No, I would say so as well, mate. You can say, I think it's more acceptance than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Like because how else can you explain the transformation? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And then, I think he's beginning to accept, what his kind of destiny is going to be, kind of
Yeah.
thing. And I think there's no point of fighting it anymore. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I think he's just, instead of fighting it and no enjoying it, then
Yeah.
he is going to enjoy it and he's going to make the most of it.
One of the early signs that he was becoming Santa Claus was actually when he was out a walk with Charlie, and he was like talking to him about how it was a dream and it didn't actually happen. And he kind of got Charlie to agree that it was going to be like just something they spoke about. So it looked like he was kind of out the woods in a sense. But then they look behind them and there's like reindeer just following them down the street, and Charlie's just laughing away. That's kind of one of the earlier signs.
Oh, you did mention as well the bit, bring your dad to work day and to school day.
Well, I was going to get to that in a wee second. Just one
Oh, right,
other
okay.
bit was obviously the bit where he goes to work and his colleagues start to notice the weight he's put on, and he makes up a story about what was it he said happened to his clothes?
Oh, I can't remember.
Fire or something. I don't know.
I can't remember, mate.
Something happened, but they're taking like the orders at the work lunch, and he orders like one of like absolutely everything. And then this guy's trying to go through this sketch of Santa driving a tank, and he's like scrutinizing every single scene, and you can really at this stage see him getting into the role.
See the bit. see his boss, mate. Yeah. See his boss. Do you ever watch the program Everyone Loves Raymond? The comedy show.
I've obviously heard of it. I never actually watched it.
Oh, his boss is Raymond's dad, Ray Romano.
Right.
Plays him. But he goes like that to him. He brings him out, mate, and he goes like, "For God's sake, Scott." You look like the Pillsbury Doughboy.
I think it's quite a startling contrast, though, isn't it, with like how prevalent like mental health things are now? Because he basically just says to him like, "Get out of here and like pull yourself together." Like, see if that was like now, there would be like so much support provided to him.
Aye, I know, mate. You think? Sorry, mate.
Game face.
You know.
Aye.
Count to five.
It showed the sign of the times, didn't it? That he was basically just told to get out and sort himself out. Like there was no like caring for the company for a loyal employee, you know. So just before we move on to the school scene, there's the scene, you know, when Charlie's talking to Scott at the kind of aquarium.
Aye.
It was in the trivia notes that's actually Toronto Zoo.
All right.
Which I've actually been to, so that was quite cool. I went to Canada a few years back, so it's quite cool. I've actually been to where that scene was filmed. So we've been talking about Scott's transformation into Santa Claus, but we haven't really touched too much on like the outside perspective of that. We talked a wee bit about some of the things Neil said and seen, but it kind of starts to escalate when Charlie brings his parents to school. It's like a thing that the school are doing, and at first the teacher's wanting to hear about Neil's career, and then Charlie kind of steps in and says no, he wants to kind of go into like the family business. He mentions that later on, and then he gets up and he's telling the class that his dad's Santa Claus, and like there's a lot of kind of laughter about it, and the parents are mortified. But there's actually something in this scene. I don't know if I don't think I probably did realize it originally, but it also does happen throughout the film. I'm sure you caught this, that there are elves among them. Like there's a boy in the class. There's a girl at the very first scene looking in like the window of a shop.
Yep.
So it shows, it's good foreshadowing that even before Scott becomes Santa Claus, that there are elves about. and it's I think they get called into like the principal's office, don't they? And they're basically talking about how Charlie can't keep going on thinking this, and it's becoming like a bit of an obsession, and that he truly believes it.
Aye, because I mean, even Scott's, he's obviously mortified as well. Do you know what I mean? When he just kind of springs it on, my dad's Santa Claus, and then it's like everybody's laughing, people are mortified.
Yeah,
Even Neil's like that as well, because obviously he was meant to be the attraction. Do you know what I mean? He's the psychiatrist. Do you know what I mean? He's the the doctor. Do you know what I mean? So
see, whenever I think of Neil, all I can think of is Neil's dad from the In-Betweeners when he goes, "Oh, Neil." Every time.
But he goes like, I don't know how I feel about this as well. I mean, it's like he's got an unhealthy obsession about it all, and I mean, like, obviously, it's not very good.
I think it's because he actually believes his
that.
dad's Santa. It's not that he's just like pretending.
Aye,
That actual belief there.
That's what I was about to say. Do you know what I mean? There's a difference between believing and a difference believing that somebody is something. Do you know what I mean? It's like he is hell bent believing it, but he's obviously seen it for his own eyes. What he's seen, he's met elves and all the rest of it. Do you know what I mean? So, it's I don't know, man. It's a shame. You kind of feel for Charlie, don't you, throughout the film as well, because he's getting pulled pillar to post and his family, but he just at the same time he just wants to, just be a kid at the same time.
It's a bit like Buddy the Elf, isn't it? How no one believes he's an actual elf as well.
No, exactly, mate. 100%. It's just until they see the right things and hear the right things and believe. You know what I mean? See the boy in this film, Charlie. I was convinced it was the boy for Liar. It's no. You ever seen the film?
Probably not.
In?
Yes, actually.
So he's the boy in that, mate. So is
he? I love that film. I remember that film, well. Yeah,
it's a great
film.
You know
another movie we need to do at some point? Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
We can put it on your list of 3, mate, and let the people decide.
Yeah. So Charlie. So the big theme of this, the big theme and the kind of most probably memorable line of this film is the whole like seeing isn't believing, believing is seeing, and it's a recurring thing throughout the film because Charlie both believes and has seen it, but obviously other people in his life, like his mum and Neil, don't have that belief. So it's round about this time where you find out about their backstory, and it both stems back to when they essentially didn't get what they wanted for Christmas, and that's when they stopped believing.
It's kind of similar to similar, but you kind of for Jingle All the Way, mate. Do you know what I mean? You had what's his name? Marv. No, Marv. Was it Marv? The postman. Obviously, he went on about that he didn't get the Johnny action figure and all that sort of thing, and he's like, he just didn't kind of believe it or did they care after it. He was just gutted. But that was an interesting backstory, mate. What did you think?
Yeah, it explains a lot, and because Laura wanted the mystery date game and Neil wanted an Oscar Mayer weenie whistle. And there's quite a sad moment which maybe softened you towards Neil a bit when you find out that he was 3 years old when he stopped believing. And I can't remember what age I was. I reckon I was probably around about maybe like, I don't know, 10-ish would probably be a decent guess. But it's quite heartbreaking to think that he stopped believing when he was 3 years old, and it does explain a lot of his behaviour as an adult.
I mean, you certainly don't want to see that in someone. Do you know what I mean? Like, no believing in things like the Tooth Fairy, Easter Bunny, Santa Claus, and things at that age. Do you know what I mean? Because it's a big part of growing up, mate, isn't it? Like, it's a big part of your childhood. Believing in these things and just being immersed in all that kind of all the activities, like going to see Santa Claus and like things like that. Do you know what I mean? And it is a shame that it happened to him. You know what I mean? And I suppose we say it all the time, mate. We see it through different lens now, don't we? About these things, and maybe not necessarily do you ever thought as a kid that you noticed that as such. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know, man, but it does explain how he's maybe grown up to be, the way he is.
Yeah, because to me, although we obviously know now, hopefully there's no one traumatized by this, but we do obviously know that Santa's not real. But to me, the feeling of Christmas is still like you still look back on it fondly. You obviously appreciate what like your family do for you, and it's nice to then keep that alive for like the future generations. So there's a lot to be said for that kind of thought process,
Aye. I mean, saying that, when I grew up, I never left, like, mum and dad never didn't leave milk and cookies out for Santa Claus. I remember that much, do you know what I mean? And I didn't, like, I still believed in him, but I didn't go to the lengths, do you know what I mean? I don't know why, but I don't know how, but
it makes you feel silly now. Like, how did Santa get to all those houses? Like,
oh, it's a big question, isn't it? But it's the Christmas magic. The Christmas magic, mate. I mean, you just you don't know how it works, but it works.
So we're getting on the really kind of serious part of the film, which is where Laura and Neil take Scott to court, and they're basically trying to take his visitation rights away from Charlie because they're so concerned about the relationship and the impact that he's having, and it's quite a sad scene and quite a light-hearted film overall. When it's announced that he has lost custody and he's not allowed to see his son at all.
I mean, he's kind of sacrificed, isn't it, Charlie, a wee bit? Because, well, not a wee bit, not a whole load, because his role as Santa Claus is kind of taken over his life, and obviously that kind of reflects on the behaviour of Charlie as well, because Charlie's to everybody else, Charlie's delusional, right? But with Scott's delusional, and Charlie's somehow feeding into this as well. So they kind of see him as a wee bit kind of dangerous as well, and he's a wee bit kind of, a loose cannon.
Yeah.
And obviously they don't think Charlie's safe with him, and at the end of the day, that's kind of why they have to take the visitation rights away, and the custody has been changed over and whatever.
But Scott doesn't listen, and he turns up at the house anyway, and he's like, "Don't make me beat you up, Neil."
Aye.
And then he just wants to have a quick word with Charlie, but he's actually shown quite a lot of maturity. He's basically just there to explain that he's going to be going away to do his Santa duties, and that he's better off staying with Laura and Neil. And it's at that stage where you start to think like there could be a bit of a resolution here, like he's taking responsibility, but then Charlie decides that is that when he goes to speak to him in the other room, and is it at that point Bernard appears, or is that later on?
It's that point, isn't it? Aye.
At that stage, yeah.
Aye.
And then Charlie basically like insists that he goes along, and then they disappear, and that's when there's the big scene with the sketches of Santa Claus and the wanted posters, and the police are obviously out to get him. There's some quite funny scenes with the Santa lineups, isn't there? And Santa's getting arrested all over the place, which must be quite traumatizing for the kids.
Aye, I mean, Santa Claus are getting taken down in their numbers, man. Just taking, you don't know which one he is, but they don't take any chances, and they're taking them all down. Obviously the lineup with Santa Claus as well. Which one is he? Who was it? And it was a wee bit, it was just kind of slapstick a wee bit, I thought. But
I think the director was one of the Santa lineup, and the Santa's in the lineup.
Aye. I found another trivia on this, by the way, as well, right? Because I wonder if it's true or not, right? But it says here that the police use a chalkboard to draw a layout of the neighbourhood to capture Scott. There's a note on it about the neighbours being in Florida and not to Home Alone 2.
I saw
The
that. Yeah.
McAllister family lived in Chicago, and the Murphy family, who lived across the street, went to Florida for the Christmas holidays. So I don't know. I'm unsure. It is set in Chicago, isn't it? This same as the what do you call it, Home Alone?
So they go back to North Pole and they're up in their tech a wee bit, aren't they? They're trying to stop Santa getting burnt in the fireplaces. So I always thought this scene was a bit weird when he gets like this like red suit and he's like strutting with the elves and there's like music and stuff. It was always a bit of a weird scene.
It was a wee kind of montage of him getting prepared for the night ahead.
And then he sees his wee pal from the start of the film, the girl again, and I think he drinks milk this time, and she remembered that he was lactose intolerant. I don't know if he actually was or he just said that, but I think he maybe was.
I think he just said that, mate, because I think because that was him like pure skeptical at times. I mean, I'm not one to drink milk. I'm lactose intolerant, but he drinks the milk this time. He's like, "What's this rubbish?"
Soy milk or something.
Soy milk. I remember that you're lactose intolerant, so that was nice. We touch, mate. Do you know what I mean?
I like their bond. Like, there's a real kind of human connection there. Like, she's a great believer. She's probably one of the first catalysts towards him actually enjoying the job and like believing in it.
Definitely.
So then he eventually gets arrested, and then Bernard, I think, sends the elves. Is it elves with attitude or something like that?
So the effective liberating flight squad.
They get sent to. Yes, that's right. They get sent to rescue Scott and allow him to finish delivering the presents. And the hunt for Scott's still going on. You've got police all over the neighborhood, but then he just kind of appears back in the house quite calmly with Charlie. They've both had a great time. They're both in good spirits, and they ultimately just need to convince Laura and Neil not to kind of put him under arrest again.
Is this the bit where Bernard comes? No, I think it's Bernard.
No, Bernard comes.
It's before this, isn't it?
I don't know. I've confused myself a wee bit because do you know the scene when Neil starts to believe a wee bit? I can't remember if Bernard was there or not. I don't think he was.
Bernard was there and he disappeared because he was talking to Bernard at one point. You know, it's like these kind of circus tricks or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And, but it must have been before this because Charlie disappeared. It was at that point Charlie went away with him because it was before this. Aye.
Yeah, but it's at this point that both it's quite a funny bit actually and quite sweet in a sense. Both Laura and Neil look at Scott and something just clicks in them, and they both kind of go like in a childlike manner. They're like Senna. It's like they're child, like their inner child reawakening, and they start to kind of make amends with Scott in that regard.
Aye, because they know he isn't insane. Do you know what I mean? Everything he was saying is all coming to fruition now. Do you know what I mean? It's like he isn't a loose cannon. He's no unhinged. This is all starting to come true now.
He's like, that's really like Neil comes up quite close to him, and he's like, that's really you, sort of thing. But it's clinched when they go back up in the sleigh and they deliver the childhood gifts that Laura and Neil never got, and it's quite a nice wee ending to the film.
That's a nice touch. That is a nice touch.
Apart from when Charlie starts to get quite upset that he's not going to see his dad as much, even though Laura has said that he can basically see him whenever he wants. But then they link back to the snow globe that Bernard gave to Charlie at the start of the film, and he said, if you want to see your dad, you can shake it. But then Charlie just starts like, Scott comes back and he's like, oh, I've only been away 5 minutes, that sort of thing. So I quite like that because it would have been quite hard for Charlie, having built that bond with his dad, to not see him a lot. So it is quite nice that he's got that kind of gateway to him.
He's like, oh, they're only going 5 minutes. I was on my way to Cleveland or something. I mean,
Aye.
he's saying so. So it shows you because if you think back to the start of the film, where he couldn't get away from him, he couldn't be in his presence for 5 minutes without wanting away from him. Now he can't be away from him for
Yeah.
5 minutes. So it's a nice kind of role reversal there a wee bit. Do you know what I mean? That this is what's happened.
I think there's a lot of good character development in the film. Like Scott goes through a lot of different stages. I think Neil and Laura definitely do as well. And there's a nice bit where they're talking about family, and he goes, "Me, your mum," and he kind of jokingly sighs a wee bit and goes, "Neil," but he's actually starting to include Neil because I think because they refer to them as like Doctor and Mrs. Miller, so I think they are married.
Right. Okay.
The
I
mum
wasn't
and
sure.
Neil, because you kind of think maybe it's just like a boyfriend or whatever, but I think they are married. And it's nice that Neil, who you kind of come round, I don't know how you felt, but Neil, I feel like, particularly this time round, I feel like I kind of came around to him quite a bit, like, in terms
Aye.
of his backstory and his real motivations, which were to protect Charlie.
No, I agree, mate. You kind of warm to him, don't you? You haven't been the guy who was, again, he had to be a bad guy in the film. Do you know what I mean? He was that, unfortunately, but he came round. I wasn't sure if they were married or not, to be honest with you, but he treated him.
There is a scene, I think it's in the court where they say, or the school, and they say Doctor and Mrs. Miller, and I don't think they would have referred to her as Miller if they weren't married.
That's true, because his name's Scott
Either
Calvin, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
but he treats him with pure contempt at the start of the film. Do you know what I mean? He always kind of slags his job off and saying, "Oh, you can't talk to him, he'll start charging you per hour," and all that sort of thing. And you do see that kind of at the end. He's like, me, your mum, and then Neil. So he is starting to include him, and he does know at the end of the day, he does want to protect Charlie, and it's Charlie's his priority, isn't it? So he realised that because he was selfish at the start. Now he's became a selfless person because he's became Santa Claus.
I think for what this film is, it's a kind of fun Christmas film. I think there is actually quite a lot of depth in terms of the character interdynamics and some of the backstories of the characters as well.
Oh, again, you see it from a different point of view now, don't you, man? So, especially when we go to kind of critique these kind of films or any film for that matter, you do kind of go into more depth with the type of film that you watch.
Even Hocus Pocus.
Aye, even Hocus Pocus.
We get quite deep on that as well. So that kind of brings the review to a close, I suppose, unless there's any kind of final things you wanted to discuss.
No, mate, I think I'm all good.
Just last thing is I think it maybe was this film. I've always had a kind of affinity for like a snow globe. There was like one that I had when I was a kid. It was like a snowman. I was thinking about it the other day when I was watching this film, and I don't actually know what it is anymore. But I'd love one of those kind of old-fashioned snow globes for the house. I think I've actually got one upstairs. But
what did you call it?
Like a snow globe.
A snow globe?
Yeah, I've always kind of called it.
Is it not a snow globe?
Yeah, but I've always kind of just called it a snow globe. I think, unless I've just made that up.
I don't know.
Maybe I just
for any people watching or listening, can you comment on this, please? Because I've never heard anybody call it a snow globe before. So, is it a snow glow or a snow globe?
Did I just coin the phrase?
I was like, surely, did I pick you up? You said that a few times, and I'm going, what have you just said there?
I think that's what I've always just referred to it as. Fair.
Right, okay, mate.
Right, so before we get into our seismic scores, I've just got a couple of social media comments. If I can find them. Yep, so the Cinemigos said, a film I grew up with and at one point watched it so much I had the dialogue committed to memory. A really fun Christmas movie that everyone should watch at least once. Well, I agree with that. They went on to say, it's a film that's a must-watch for me at this time of the year. Tim Allen was always an actor I liked, and this is just a film I watched at the right time as a kid. It has a certain magic to it. And on Facebook, my dad's friend, Mick, said, good fun for the whole family, young and old. We enjoyed the follow-up films as well, although the gags weren't as good. So that was just a couple of comments that came up there. So I'm just going to go first for a wee change. And I have to give this film a 10 out of 10 for me. It's the childhood nostalgia, but it also held up on the rewatch, and I think the humor is really good. Tim Allen's really funny in it. The relationships are good. It's got a positive message about Christmas as well, and it's one I'll always enjoy. What about you?
Well,
Don't make me hate you.
with IMDb, what did IMDb give it?
6.6.
See, I can see that.
I can't.
I'm just joking, mate. I'm just trying to wind you up. I'm gonna give it
Wasn't sure.
a.
I honestly wasn't sure going in.
I'm toiling between an 8 and a 9, to be honest with you.
Oh,
I'm gonna go 8.5, just 8.5 out of 10.
I'm glad you
I
enjoyed
don't,
it.
I don't have the same connection as you do to this film, mate. Do you know what I mean? I don't have the same kind of nostalgia to it. But I like it for what it is, mate. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
I like the Christmas feel, the magic, the believing in, and all that sort of thing. The character development, as we spoke about. Yeah, man, it was a good movie. You know what I mean? So, like I said, I was late to the party watching it,
Mhm.
and it'll be one I watch, year on year now, mate. Do you know what I mean? I might even try and catch the sequels, but if you say they're not up to much, then I might just kind of patch it. But it was a good watch, mate. Do you know what I mean? I'd obviously seen it before and whatever, but
Yeah.
Seeing it like for a podcast review purpose, you tend to kind of analyse things a bit more.
Yeah.
And because of that, I probably enjoyed it more as well, mate. Do you know what I mean? So I'm going to go with 8.5.
Cool. And it's actually been one that's been coming. Like, this is Seismic Cinema actually turns 3 years old in January, which is crazy. So that's quite proud of that consistency of keeping it going. Like, a lot of these things fall away, but this will be like the third. Wait, am I getting my years wrong? Would this be the third Christmas? Yes, third Christmas. And it's one that each Christmas I wanted to do, and we just never got around to doing. So I'm glad it's finally came to pass. And yeah, happy with that. And for those who enjoyed this episode and enjoyed previous episodes, just a reminder where you can follow us on social media. You can subscribe or follow us on different streaming platforms, and also make sure you check out the Podpack Collective. So the one call to action is, if you could help us try and reach our target of 175 subscribers on YouTube. We're currently at 163. It literally only takes a second to subscribe, and then you can hear about our next kind of weekly episodes. So this is the final podcast before Christmas. So James's choices, which will be coming up in a poll near you soon, are for a kind of post-Christmas recording and release. And I don't know what vibe James went for at all. I know Paul suggested a reboot. I suggested maybe just non-Christmas films that you like to watch during the Christmas holidays. Like for me, I know you don't like it. I like watching Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. That's when I always like watching it this time of year. It'd be fun to do a review actually, since you don't like it. Anyway,
Well,
enough rambling. What are your options?
I can give you options. I went down. I like the idea. Paul gave us an idea. Our editor. He said, "New year, new you, reboot." And I did like the idea, mate. Now I've went with 3 options on this. Now there's a plethora of reboots.
Is this reboots then? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going reboots, mate. I'm going reboots. There's a load of options out there, mate. I'm going with I've written down here. Right. Dread.
Okay.
21 Jump Street.
Oh.
And the last of the 3 is Ocean's 11.
Okay.
So
I've got my vote in my head.
Well, I know you picked 21 Jump Street.
probably give it away there. I also like 22 Jump Street.
Three good films in their own right, mate. But they're obviously reboots as well. So I'll put them on the social platforms shortly. We've got a wee bit of time, so we are taking a wee break, aren't we? So, well, are we? I don't know.
Aye.
Aye, well, but
We'll
yeah. So that's one of the
we'll
options.
we'll
I'll
record a-
place them. I'll place them on the socials, buddy.
Cool. Right. Well, to go back to the start of the podcast, I'm Colin. I'm on the naughty list because I've not seen half the films you're meant to see. Paul, watched Santa Claus 3, 2, the TV show, then 1. And James?
And James and I have written an essay on it.
So you're on the good list. Or the nice list.
That's it.
Remember, folks, seeing isn't believing. Believing is seeing.